What's up everybody, Maran here for a tire video. So the Bullet is getting new tires today and I'm very excited about it. It's something that I've been looking forward to doing, especially the switchover. So the switchover that I'm doing here is I'm going from summer tires to all season tires, and I will explain why in this video. And I want to give a huge thank you to Continental for providing me with the new tires that I ended up getting here. So this isn't sponsored by them, they just provided the tires for the review. I'm still going to give an unbiased, objective review of the tires, and I'm going to do a multi-part series here of what it's like to drive them here in the fall, what it's like to live through the winter with them, and also what it's like in the spring and the summer next year. But before I get into why I chose the Continental ExtremeContact DWS06 Plus tire, I first want to talk about the Michelins very briefly that came on this car from the factory. This car came stock with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. They're the summer tires, and they're 255 in the front, 275s in the rear. I'm not changing the sizing, but you know, the tires worked really well. I do have to say that I really like the Michelins. They were great. I've had them on the car for about 5.5 years, and you know, the main reason why I'm switching to all seasons is just because I drive this car all year round, but I don't drive it consistently. It's not my daily driver most of the time because I review cars for a living, and so I have press vehicles that are loaned to me for weeks at a time, and I'm often driving those. So this car will sit sometimes for many months, but then there are times where I need to drive it to the airport or something in the middle of winter, and I don't have a press vehicle, and I like having the flexibility of having the all-season tire. And with the Michelins, you know, you could drive them under 40 degrees if it was dry, you know, then it was safe, but if it was wet at all, or if it was below 20 degrees, these tires literally would get cracks in them if you were to drive them at those cold temperatures. And so there's a few nail-biting times where I'd, you know, take it out, and I was nervous because I didn't really want to take it out, but I had to, and it was just one of these things that, you know, just didn't work great for my use case for this car. And so otherwise, the Michelins held up really well. The only thing I will say is that after 5.5 years here, even though they're not down to the wear bars, by the way, the only reason why I'm getting rid of these tires, in addition to wanting the extra flexibility of, you know, 4-season driving, is also the fact that the front one, the alignment was slightly off, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. And so the inside front on the driver's side here is just really worn to the point where it won't pass a Pennsylvania inspection here. So I needed to swap these tires now instead of at the 7-year mark, which they probably would have lasted till. But I'm also coming up to these corners here that I always take, and I just want to do a little back-to-back comparison on 5.5-year-old Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's versus the Extreme Contacts that I'll have on here later today. And you know, I will say that as these tires aged, they got a lot less grippy, especially in the wet. But even in the dry here, the car was a lot more tail happy. I'm not complaining because I do enjoy that, but it just was a less secure feeling. But yeah, I mean, it shifts around a lot more, and so I'm honestly surprised that the tires degraded in their grip as fast as they did. Now that could be the way I treated them. Again, they did see temperatures below freezing, but I checked the tires, there's no cracking, there's no kind of weird wear or anything, so I don't think the tires are bad. It's just that, you know, they're, you know, getting close to the wear bars there, and they're getting a little old, and so they are definitely not as sticky as they were before. And I actually had the fortunate timing of just a couple of days ago driving a brand new 2023 Mustang Mach 1 on brand new Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, and you know, they do have a lot of really great grip, and whenever they're new and fresh, they're a very impressive tire. But at least here with my set, you know, once they get old, like most tires, you know, they lose some of their qualities, and you know, just isn't quite as grippy as they once were, and that's kind of par for the course. But just, you know, something I wanted to point out here. I did have 2 flat tires though. That's not the fault of the tires, but so the front one on the passenger side there has actually been plugged once and then had to end up being replaced, so that one isn't original, but all the others are original here after 19,193 miles here I've put on them. they've still held up great. And so I've seen elsewhere these tires will last 30,000 miles or so. You know, if you're not tracking the car, driving it super hard all the time. In my case here, I'd say maybe I would have gotten 25, looking at how worn out they are. But regardless, you know, the Michelin's been a pretty good tire, but just, you know, I'm ready to move on, and I'm excited to try out the Continental ExtremeContact DWS06 Plus, and I will get into why I chose that tire once we get it put on. But I'm going to get the tires put on now, and I have a cool new way that I've never tried before for putting on the tires, so check this out. So I didn't know this was a thing until recently, but you can now do a mobile tire installation where they come to your house or work and do it all while you do other things. I was amazed that they could fit that whole setup there in the van, and special thanks to Dan for letting me film it and for doing a great job on the install. He was really nice. Alright, so first drive here with the Continentals on. So obviously, like all tires, you know, you have to have a few hundred miles on them before they're actually broken in and give you the optimal performance. So I'm not going to be able to do like a direct back-to-back, you know, here's exactly how they feel. But the first couple of things I do notice about the tires, they do feel quieter, and that's something that also Tire Rack has stated in their back-to-back testing, that this is, you know, one of the quieter tires in this segment. So I really like that. It's also a little bit lighter for the steering. Now that is a typical thing whenever you swap on new tires that have, you know, more tread. So, you know, time will tell how much of a difference there is. And I will certainly be doing a follow-up video giving more in-depth thoughts on what it was like to drive with these tires in the fall and in the winter. I'll probably be posting that video early next year, talking about my winter impressions and all that. But I just have to say that it's such a relief to have all-season tires on here. I know for a lot of enthusiasts, they're like, what? Like, why go for the all-seasons? And I know, you know, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but, you know, some people might say, why not just get dedicated snow tires and then, you know, have all the awesome perks of summer tires still? But the problem is, I live in Pittsburgh, PA here, where, all right, still great grip. Oh, man. This car is still so fast. Anyway, you know, so I live in Pittsburgh, PA here, and it's very bipolar with the weather we get around here. You know, where the winter time we maybe have a handful of really intense snows, but that's basically it. Otherwise, you know, sometimes it'll be snowing in November, and then December will be 50 degrees the whole time. There'll be a day or two in January and February where it's 60 something degrees and it's bizarre, and then the next day it's 15 degrees. It's very all over the place, where sometimes winter tires are overkill, and especially since I work from home and I don't necessarily need to ever drive in a blizzard, in the very rare chance we ever get anything that serious here in Pittsburgh, and the roads haven't been cleaned off since they cleaned them off pretty quickly. There's just very few instances where I actually encounter true snow, so that's why I thought an all-season tire would be more than sufficient for my use case, and you know, probably be very similar as far as summer performance, since I don't autocross this vehicle, I don't track this vehicle, I'm not very demanding of it generally. You know, I do a lot of highway miles, a lot of just cruising around, errand running, very little spirited driving, to be totally honest. And so for my realistic use case, I think the all seasons are definitely going to be the best choice. But the big question I'm sure many of you have is, why did I go for the Continentals over like a Michelin Pilot Sport for all season tire? Michelin does have that one as well, and there's many other, you know, all season options out there. And it came down to a couple of different things. I mean, the main thing was, you know, these tires are actually rated as the best all-around tires according to Tire Rack's subjective and objective testing, and they did a great comparison of this Continental with the Pilot Sport 4 and also a couple of the other tires that compete with this. And the bottom line was that even though this one might not be the absolute best as far as snow performance, which is again probably going to be the least amount of usage that I put these tires through, everything else, the Continental basically is the top tire in its segment. And you know, the quieter nature of these tires also was appealing to me, since I do a lot of driving on rougher roads and I do a lot of highway driving. Again, not like, you know, the old Michelins were super loud and noisy, but, you know, little improvements in NVH are always nice. These tires also do feel a little bit smoother. That also could just be, again, the extra tread that I have now compared to before. But going around the same corners here that I went around earlier, just trying out the handling, and again, not optimal performance or anything here, but what I'm noticing is it does feel like there is a slight lower limit than the Michelins, but it still is totally sufficient. And again, I will have to wait and see how that plays out as they actually get broken in. But I mean, it's an all-season, going from an all-season from a, you know, max performance summer tire. You're going to expect a little bit of a trade-off as far as the dry handling and handling in general, you know, so I'm totally okay with that, because again, I don't push this car to 10/10s ever, and I like having a little bit of a looser feeling anyway, because you know, I like kicking the back end out in this and just having fun. But the last thing too I wanted to mention is, you know, these tires are a little bit cheaper, so they're a little bit easier to recommend. The Michelins, at least for my size, was almost $200 more, I think, and you know, this tire again seems to be like it is the better performer in many ways compared to the all-season Michelin Pilot Sport 4, and just to me just seems like it's, you know, the better choice. If it's cheaper and supposedly better performing, that was enough to really win me over. And even though, yes, I didn't buy these tires myself and Continental provided them to me, you know, I reached out to them. I wanted to work with them because I was really, you know, intrigued by these tires, and they seem to be really impressive. And so far, I'm totally happy. In the first few miles here, we will see how they wear and, you know, how things progress down the road. But I'm, you know, confident they'll be really great tires. And they have a couple of other cool little things. So for this Plus version, this is the newer version that came out a few years ago, they have this DWS indicator on them, which will wear away. And once that's gone, then that indicates to you that it doesn't have optimal performance in dry, wet, and snow there. And as far as the Plus version, it does have enhanced handling in dry, wet, snow, ice, and even braking conditions. It's improved over the non-Plus version of this tire that came before it. So, you know, definitely a nice improvement there. Obviously, I don't have old ones to compare or any experience with those old ones, but I'll take their word for it that it's, you know, an improved tire in all the ways. And again, if it's ranking the best out of all the other competitors, you know, from Tire Rack standpoint, I'm inclined to believe them, even though, again, I'm not connected to Tire Rack here, I have no reference, but just, you know, they know tires more than I do, so I'm going to take their word for it, and you know, just trust these are going to be, you know, some of the best tires available for what I needed. But anyway, huge thanks to Continental for once again providing me with these tires to review. I'm excited to do some follow-up videos. Stay tuned and subscribe for those. But anyway, I'll leave you guys with one last acceleration here. Yep, still puts the power down really well. Oh yeah, and very, very impressed with this car still, and these tires as well. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on my choice here in the comments below. Huge thanks once again to Continental for providing me here with these tires, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.